Before we jump into this week's episode of Major Pain, I will remind you that I am not a medical professional. Please do not take any medical action based off what you hear on this podcast without first consulting your doctor.
Medicine itself is kind of nebulous.
My brain is just wired differently.
You're feeling symptoms that the tests aren't showing exist.
People need to hear your story.
Welcome to Major Pain. I'm your host, Jesse Mercury, and this week I'm so excited to be joined by our guest, Alia. Alia, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited that we're finally chatting today. I have to thank you right off the bat for being so flexible. We've had a very hard time scheduling this. I've just been so busy and I, got very behind on emails, and you've been so patient and really accommodating. So thank you so much. I'm so excited we're finally talking today. Let's get to know you a little bit before we jump into your story. So Alia, why don't you tell us about yourself?
My name is Alia. I just turned 31 yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thanks. And I am a research data coordinator at a tertiary medical center.
Wow.
Specifically Oncology Research. And I really enjoy reading and singing. I have a guitar that I don't know how to play yet, but that's okay. And I also like to do art things. I don't know, you can kind of see there's a painting in the back over that I painted once. I'm not really good at it, but I still like to do it.
Awesome.
Other than that, I'm just reading, singing, artsy things.
Wow. Cool. Okay. Well, I have questions now because I love reading and singing as well. But before I ask about that, what is a research data coordinator? What do you do with cancer research?
So that's basically a long-winded way of saying I ask people questions or go through medical records and I take out the data and put it in a database.
Okay, cool.
But it sounds fancier.
Yeah. And can you tell us anything about the cancer research that your organization is doing?
Sure. So we are involved in something called translational research or epidemiological research, where it's really just studying the outcomes. We typically call ourselves supportive oncology, which means there aren't any treatment interventions specifically, but we look at how treatments affect patients and how we can try to mitigate those things and see what populations are affected the most, what disease types are affected the most, age groups, etc.
Very cool. Amazing. And okay, I am a huge bookworm. I love to read. So tell me about your reading life. What's your favorite genre, author? What are you reading now?
So ever since I was a really young person, it's a little morbid, I guess, for some, but my favorite book is As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. I'm obsessed with William Faulkner for some reason. And I also really, 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 really enjoyed Brave New World by Aldous Huxley and Feed. I forgot who wrote Feed, but I love Feed. So that's kind of like sci-fi-ish. Right now, I'm reading Why Fish Don't Exist. A very interesting read about a scientist who turns out to not be that great of a guy. And in the end, all of his hard work was studying fish, and the category of fish is not recognized by the scientific community as a specific kingdom or whatever the sciencey breakdown is, kingdom, phyla of species or whatever. It's not. They say it's like saying that everyone who lives on the top of a mountain are mish. I was interesting. But I'm really into sci-fi type things, fantasy. Devil in the White City is one of my all-time favorite books about one of the first serial killers. So
Oh, wow. Interesting.
I grew up right around where his territory was. My apartment building was a block away from where he committed most of his murders. So
Cool. Yeah, sci-fi fantasy. That's my faves. I always say if it doesn't have wizards or aliens, I probably haven't read it. Right now I'm reading Blue Mars, the last in Kim Stanley Robinson's Mars trilogy about the colonization of Mars. Really, really interesting. And I'm mid Cosmere. I'm reading through Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere. I'm on the second era of Mistborn and taking a little break in that. And I'm also in the middle of the Stormlight Archive, and I'm kind of, I'm picking my own order going through the Brandon Sanderson books. I love escapist literature, I don't want to read about things that are real. I want to, put my mind out. I want to leave this planet, go to Fantasyland and read about aliens. And okay, what about singing? What sort of music are you into?
Everything. So I know everyone says that, but I have a small obsession with Billie Holiday, and then a very small obsession with a singer called Baby Rose. She has a very weird, interesting voice. But I'm also really into metal music.
Oh, cool.
And some country-ish music. So people are very surprised when I turn on my driving playlist that I make, and it has a wide range from 1950s classics all the way to Pig Squeal's Screamo. So
yeah, I can't imagine hearing Billie Holiday next to metal. Wow.
Yeah, it's a little strange, but that's okay. I like it.
I love it. That's awesome. So cool. Okay, well, now that we have a bit of a sense of who you are, I'm so curious to jump into your health story. So, Alia, what is your major pain?
Recently, my major pain is idiopathic hypoglycemia.
Okay, idiopathic hypoglycemia. What is that? What does that mean?
So idiopathic, of course, means we don't know. And so hypoglycemia is just when your blood sugar goes low. So I have something called reactive hypoglycemia that typically affects people when they have a lot of carbs or a lot of sugar at one time. It spikes your insulin up really high as an overreaction to the glucose, and then your blood sugar goes all the way down. So it has the opposite effect of what's supposed to happen when you eat a lot of sugar. Your blood sugar goes up usually, but mine just goes.
Yeah, interesting. And for anyone joining us on the video version, we can see that you have a feeding tube. So is this affecting your nutrition?
So technically, no. So that started before this started. I also have a condition called visceral hypersensitivity syndrome, which is basically your stomach hurts. Oh. We don't know why, but all the nerves are on 10,000 when they really shouldn't be feeling anything at all.
Oh, horrible. Oh my God. What does that feel like?
So the way that I describe it, and it's really weird, but imagine if you're eating food normally, living your best life, chowing down on a burger or something. And imagine if there were a whole bunch of shards of glass and nails and acid in there.
Oof.
And that's all just inside your tummy.
Wow. Okay. That sounds horrible. So blood sugar issues and digestive issues, it sounds like eating is not a good time.
No. And I used to do these things I would call oral intake trials, where I would see if it was still a thing. Maybe it's gone away by now. And it got to the point where it became kind of bad. I started blacking out from the pain. And I just wake up and a couple hours later, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I shouldn't do that anymore.
Oh my God. You'd black out from the pain from eating. Mm-hmm. From just sort of testing out, is this food still bad for me? Yes, I guess so, because I just woke up later after passing out because it hurt so bad. Yikes. Yeah. Oh my God. And idiopathic, so we don't know why.
Mm-hmm. I just have a lot of little clusters of little rare diseases that they like to sprinkle on me. So I also have gastroparesis, which means my stomach doesn't, move like it should.
Yeah.
And then I also have a dysmotility disorder that is unnamed. So my intestines also don't move things through. So I don't go to the bathroom a lot. So I take a lot of expensive medications to try and make me good. But they don't really work.
Ugh. Wow. This sounds really, really frustrating just right off the bat. I mean, you're smiling through this, but this must have a massive impact on your life.
Oh, yeah. I've missed a lot of major life events. I
Mm.
remember the last event that I went to that I was really excited for was my little brother's graduation about 3 years ago. And I was able to fly there. I have a continuous glucose monitor, so I was monitoring my blood sugar and everything was going great. We were eating ice cream because my blood sugar would go low, and then I'd have to like hurry up and make it go back up, and then continue to eat throughout the day so I can stay high. And then I was in the hospital for my little sister's wedding, my best friend's wedding, my cousin's graduation.
Mm.
I've missed a lot of events from being in the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I know that feeling so well. You know, I've lived through a lot of that myself, and just like watching the world happen without you. And it's like you want to be there and it's not your choice. And then there's also the complicated feeling of guilt. Like I used to feel like it was my fault, but it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it just hurts.
I was a bridesmaid in one of my best friend's weddings, and she was like, probably not a good idea for you to be a bridesmaid. I was like, oh, okay, like I understand. You probably don't want me to like pass it out while at the altar. Like I understand, but it's okay.
Yeah, totally. I was supposed to be one of the groomsmen at my friend's wedding, and I didn't make it, you know? And I had custom Converse with my name on them, and I just felt so guilty. You know, I couldn't get there. My health flared up, you know, like a month or two before the wedding. It's like, this isn't going to happen. And there's no amount of apology that can make that right. It just feels so wrong.
It does. I mean, luckily she was understanding because I couldn't legally drive because I also have a seizure disorder. But so I had a seizure, and so you can't drive for this. Funny story. All of this happened about the same time. All of these events happened, and now I have all these diagnoses that are diagnosed around the same time.
Wow.
But I had a seizure, and so I couldn't drive for 6 months. And I had a friend who was going to drive me, but then she ended up not going to the wedding, and so I had to miss the wedding. But it happens. It's okay.
Yeah.
We're still friends now. So.
Yeah, totally. Like me and this guy, we're still friends, and you know, he was very understanding, but it just feels wrong internally. It's like I don't want that to be the way that things are, you know.
Exactly.
But we have to do what our bodies demand, and to try to do otherwise is to live out of sync with yourself, and that is also something I have a lot of experience with. How old were you when your health troubles started?
So let's see. Now that I'm officially an old lady as of yesterday, 20, I think I was 27 when everything started. So yeah, like the middle of 2022 is when everything like started when it was crazy. But really the beginning of 2022 is when I had my first seizure.
Okay, so this is pretty recent, just in the last 3-ish years.
Yeah. So I was like this perfectly healthy individual. I was working out all the time. I worked out 5 days a week, yoga, weightlifting, really into fitness and things like that. When I got sick, I was still like hitting PRs in the gym, so I was very excited. But I rarely ever went to the doctor. I don't get colds. So again, was like pretty healthy. I've been a vegetarian since I was like 15. I don't know. So make lots of healthy but not so healthy choices too. But it's like, you know, it all started with like this random moment of seizure and blood sugar stuff. I was at my doctor's office for a regular checkup. Then they said I had strabismus, so when your eyes just move really fast back and forth in your head. And I didn't know what was going on. I just felt kind of tired. And they were like, we need to check your blood sugar because you look tired. I'm like, what do you mean? I checked my blood sugar and it is below the favorable amount. think it was like 55, which was interesting because I just had a snack. Um, and then a few months later, I work where I work in my office. I have a door that doesn't stay open. My door is the only door that's broken on the whole floor.
Hmm.
But I worked across the hall from a resident, from an oncology resident. And he had come into my office and he had seen me with my head back. I was foaming at the mouth and gurgling on my own saliva with my eyes rolled back.
Wow.
And he immediately got my boss and he positioned me onto the floor. And I didn't know what was happening until I was in motion to the floor, which is strange for a seizure because usually you're not there, but I could only like make noises, but I couldn't move, except I was just shaking in a full tonic-clonic seizure. And then I was hospitalized for 3 days after that, and they do a brain scan called an EEG, so they put all these little electrodes, and they glue them to my head, and the glue doesn't come out for months because of my hair type. But at the end of that, they say, well, we don't see anything, so you have psychogenic non-epileptic seizures caused by stress and you need to go to therapy.
Oh my
God.
God.
What stress? And it was really interesting because I had just stopped working 2 jobs and accepted an offer at this really nice place where I work now. And I was making more money than I'd ever made before. I live in a really nice apartment with vaulted ceilings. I have a garage. There's a beach around the corner from my house. I'm like, I'm living my best life. Like, what are you talking about? It wasn't until a lot later, maybe, because this happened in February of 2022. So in October of 2022, they did a different kind of scan called a CT angiogram of my brain. So they studied the way that the blood travels throughout the brain. And there was a blockage in one part of my brain, which is sometimes, most often, you're seen in temporal lobe seizures, which are focal seizures, which can cause focal aware seizures. So you are aware of what's going on, but you can't control it. But they didn't figure it out until much later.
Yeah, it should be criminal for doctors to blame the patient like that. It happens to all of us. It makes me so mad. You know?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it happened to me so many times. Just like, oh, you had this new health symptom. I can't figure it out. I think it's caused by your anxiety. That should be illegal. That should be illegal. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. And then it sounds like for the better part of a year, you kind of lived with that, you know, feeling of, okay, this is what the doctor thinks I have, but that doesn't feel right to me. You know, like I don't believe that. So then you're just kind of living in this uncertainty. You must feel so left alone without help when the doctor isn't really willing to dig deeper and you feel like there's something else going on, right?
Oh my goodness. And because I do research for a living, I was on it. I was on Up to Date. I was on all the NIH websites. Like I was like ready looking at all these research articles. And I had finally figured out a pattern that when my blood sugar takes large swings down is when I have seizures. And they were like,
you figured that out yourself? Oh my God, that's impressive.
And they're like, no, that's not a thing. I was like, what?
Oh my God.
I was like, it's a thing for me. Like, what do you mean? And then all of a sudden, the stomach issues started happening just like randomly. And I was like, oh, okay. And my boss noticed that I was not taking breaks at work. And I was like, well, what do you mean? She's like, you didn't eat today. I was like, I didn't. I'm like, no. I was like, oh, okay. And so I got to the point where I would have to set timers on my phone to remind me when to eat because I didn't have like the feeling of hunger or any hunger pains or anything. So with the schedule, I was eating normally. And then just little by little, I just kept getting more and more full over time after eating smaller and smaller amounts of food. And then I switched to smoothies, and then the smoothies were working, and then I switched to Ensure. And then I was down to 1 Ensure a day with sips of orange juice in between to kind of keep my blood sugar up and sucking on Jolly Ranchers and like just to keep my blood sugar up, but I could not like eat anything. I would get bloated to the point where I looked like I was pregnant and I had these sharp stabbing pains and I would get nauseous and lightheaded and I'm like, what is happening? I'm not like allergic to much. So after that, I was in the hospital. I went to the hospital after my blood sugar decided not to come up one time. And they had me hooked up to all these IVs. And my boss was like, you're gray. And I was like, what do you mean I'm gray? And she's like, you look gray. And I'm like, huh? And I now know what I look like compared to right now. But I don't know if you've ever heard of modeling. So like when the blood stops circulating in certain places or when circulation isn't good, your skin kind of turns like dark and kind of ashen.
Yeah.
So that is what was happening to me. And I had lost, at this point I had lost 65 pounds. And my doctors were like, but your BMI is fine. So, and I was like, you don't understand. Like, I'm in the gym squatting like 400 pounds. Like, I wouldn't even be able to lift like a penny right now. Like, I'm so weak and like everything. And they're I'm like, okay.
That makes me so mad. Oh my God.
I was like, all right, it's fine. Oh, and the dietitian does a checkup while I'm in the hospital, and I'll never forget this. She was doing because they have to like feel like your bones and like your muscle density and everything like that. And so she's pressing on me. She's like, "Oh, can you move your remote, your TV remote?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Can you move this and this?" I was like, "No, that's my hip bone." And she's like, "Oh, okay. You need a feeding tube." And I was like, well, yeah, but at this, you don't think of someone being underweight at 180 pounds. That's not underweight for someone who's like 5'6", 5'7". That's still technically like obese. And so they were like, what? And I'm like, yes, like you don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, holding everyone to these numbers like BMI, it's like, what about the individual human being who is not able to take in nutrition and has lost a massive amount of weight really quickly? That's not okay. And just because it still lines up with your stupid chart that says that this is okay, doesn't mean it's okay. Listen to the person. Listen to what I'm telling you and take action. It's so dehumanizing.
Oh, it was horrible. I'm like, something isn't right. Like, you guys, something isn't right. And I would, oh my goodness, I would beg and plead with my doctor. Oh my gosh. As an aside, I feel like I was like gaslit the entire journey for the most of it because I also had this rare disease called intracranial hypertension. Diagnosed at the same time I started having the seizures. So what that means is that there's a lot of fluid that starts to compress the brain, and then your optic nerves start to swell, and it can lead to blindness. And my primary care provider for 2 months, she was like, "You just need to take a bath. It's just anxiety." I was like, "Take a bath?"
Jeez.
And then another doctor said that I was smart enough to know that I should have made an appointment with an ophthalmologist as soon as my headaches didn't go away.
Okay.
Like, oh, okay. I didn't know I went to medical school. Like, I'm so sorry.
Right. Yeah,
and that's how they found me. And so I had to go to this fancy neuro-ophthalmologist that they diagnose, and they put you on a medication that gets rid of the water or the fluid in your brain, and then so all of these things were happening at the same time, and I was just feeling very like one doctor after another was like, "Well, there's nothing really going on," and then turns out something is going on. "Oh, there's nothing going on," and then there's something going on. But finally, after spending 2 weeks in the hospital for losing this weight and my blood sugar, I get a feeding tube. I was there, and for Thanksgiving, my mom brought like food and snacks for all the nurses, which was really nice. And they gave me this feeding tube. And then 5 days later, they said, hey, we can't find a gastroenterologist to follow your feeding tube. So you're going to have to stay in the hospital for longer.
Oh, God.
And I was like, okay, how much longer? They're like, just a couple of days. A couple of days go by. So your primary care physician is usually the one who follows this, but she's not comfortable following it. I'm like, okay. And they're like, yeah, so we haven't found anyone yet. Have they said why? And they're like, no, they haven't said anything. And I'm like, okay. And it had been like the total amount in the hospital was, I think, like 14 and a half days.
Wow. And you're just waiting for them to follow up on your case. And no one's doing anything.
Because I can't leave the hospital with one of these unless someone will like check in occasionally to see if it's okay.
That's got to be so expensive. This also should be criminal. This is insane.
Oh, it was a very amazing hospital bill I received. But luckily, I have excellent health insurance.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Lucky at the time where I work, we have excellent health insurance. But I made the decision. I was like, okay, then I'm going to have to find someone on my own to follow this feeding tube. They're like, okay. And I was like, okay, please remove this feeding tube. And they were like, what do you mean? Like, you do realize the risks. And I was like, I can't do anything here because no one will follow me. And so my mom and I went to a hospital about 45 minutes away, and we had called in advance. We've been calling people for 2 days, and we finally found someone. They're like, yes, we do feeding tubes. Yes, we follow feeding tubes. We go there, we have the appointment, we get into the office. They say, we haven't done that in 5 years. What are you talking about? Who told you that?
Wow.
And I was like, what do you mean?
What sort of Twilight Zone nonsense is this?
And so I'm like, okay, and I'm just like crying. And my primary care provider also called that hospital, and they assured her that yes, they do follow feeding tubes, and that wasn't a thing there. And so as a last resort, my mom and I came back to my apartment. We packed a bag. I called the Mayo Clinic emergency room and said, hey, I need a feeding tube and I haven't had anything to eat in 2 days. I've been sucking on Jolly Ranchers and I have hypoglycemia. I'm about 3.5 hours away. Can I come in? Will you see me? And they're like, yes.
Whoa.
Yes. And I was like, do you do feeding tubes? They're like, of course. And I'm like, okay. And so you're over there. And we sat in the emergency room. And at this point is when the Jolly Ranchers were not working as much. And my blood sugar was very low. I think it was 33 once we got to the hospital. And under 30 is comatose level.
Oh my God.
And they're like, okay, we need to get you a sugar infusion stat. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And I'm like giggling and laughing because I'm like lethargic. I'm like out of it because my blood sugar is so low. And they give me a sugar infusion. It raises my blood sugar to like 230. Great. 20 minutes later, my blood sugar was back down to 65. And they were like, what is happening? And so they're giving me more sugar. And they got it up again. And they put me in a room. And they're like, okay, well, we need to keep an eye on your sugar. I'm like, okay, that's fine. 30 minutes later, after it raising up over the 200s again, goes right back down to 60. And I was like, we need a feeding tube. Like she can't eat anything. Like we need a feeding tube. And they're like, but we don't just give feeding tubes. She's like, oh. And so my mom starts crying strategically. She's not really sad, but she's a mom. So she starts crying. She's like, my daughter's going to die. Help her, please help my daughter. And I'm like, okay, fine, we'll admit her. They admit me, and the first thing they do, accuse me of injecting myself with insulin.
What? Come on.
if I had insulin money, do you know where I would be right now? Insulin's so expensive, first of all. Why would I? There are people who need insulin for their diabetes. Why would I be injecting myself with? And anyway, and so they have a video monitor in my room to make sure I'm not injecting myself with insulin.
What?
And my blood sugar just keeps going down. And then they find a correlation between my potassium also shooting down and my blood sugar going down. And so they put me on this fast and they're like, okay. And then I get symptomatic and lethargic. And they're like, okay, we need to give you sugar. I'm like, yes. And they keep giving me sugar and then turning off the sugar, giving me sugar, turning off the sugar. And I'm like, please just keep it the same. My body cannot handle this back and forth, up and down. And then they're like, okay, we're going to give you a feeding tube. Like, we're going to do it. However, I was like, what is the catch? And they're like, you need to do a pain management program. And I was like, what? And they're like, well, you can't eat. Well, you have an eating disorder called avid because you can't eat because it causes you pain. So you're afraid to eat. I was like, no, like I love food. I like eating. However, it is extremely painful. So I do not do it so that I don't end up in pain because it would cause a pain flare. And I would be laid on the couch for like 6 hours, just unable to move because I'm just in all this excruciating pain. So they're like, we'll only follow your feeding tube if you agree to do this pain management program. And I'm like, okay, tell me about the pain management program. Because at this point, they're like, we're going to do the whole Mayo Clinic workup. The big, the big thing where you see all the physicians and everything like that. So I saw a neurologist, a rheumatologist, endocrinologist, gastroenterologist, all the works.
Nice.
And endocrinologist is like, I don't know what's going on with you. Gastroenterologist is like, I think you have some trauma that's built up that is making it so that your stomach is hurting and that you can't eat. And then by this time, my dysmotility was so bad I wasn't having bowel movements for like almost a month. And they're like, and that is what's causing you to not have bowel movements because you're afraid to go to the bathroom. And I was like,
what?
What
is that? Come on.
And I'm like flipping tables. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, get out of here. And then I meet with the psychiatrist and they tell me about the program. The program is a 3 to 5 week program for 8 hours a day. And it is located near the Mayo Clinic. And it's sponsored, of course, by the Mayo Clinic, but it's not covered by insurance. So it is $50,000. Of course.
So you're being held ransom for a $50,000 ransom to get care. You have to do this thing you don't need because no one will believe you because people are telling you you're afraid to go to the bathroom. You don't have to go to the bathroom, and that's the problem, and no one's believing you. That's ridiculous.
And at this point, I was like, like, what do you mean? Okay. And they're like, yeah. And you also have to stay here and you can't work. And I was like, wait. So I also have to not have a job. I have to quit my job. I have to do this program. And then I have to pay for room and board for this program. And then the fun part about this program that they don't tell you is that they take away all of the medications that you take.
What?
So if you're on anxiety medication, they take away an anxiety medication because this type of therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, wonderful, amazing therapy. You don't need your medications because you'll know how to manage it. You just need to be comfortable with pain. You need to be comfortable with your anxiety and just get through it. I was like, at this point, I think I'm being pumped. Like this is not like, no, this is not real. And me being me again, I do research on it. And the best place to find out how people actually felt about this program, you can't find out from the source because they say they have a 99% success rate. And I go on Reddit, of course, because it's Reddit. And there are so many videos of people they're making about their experiences in this program. They take the doors off of the room. They took away seizure medication, blood pressure medication. No one has any privacy. There was a quiet room, but the nurses don't respect the quiet room. They made a few people have mentioned this, but they used a mobility aid, so a walker or a cane, and they made them walk to the program. They wouldn't provide transportation from their hotel. They said just needed to power through it, and it was a part of the therapy. And I was like, at this point, I'm on Keppra for my seizures. And they don't prescribe Keppra for non-epileptic seizures. So I thought that was weird that they said I had psychogenic seizures in the first place, but were giving me Keppra. And the Keppra was working. I was having fewer and fewer seizures. I was about, I don't know, maybe 3 months since my last seizure at that point. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to take away my seizure medication or anti-seizure medication because it's psychogenic, caused by stress, and they induce a lot of stressful situations. And I was like, I can't do that program.
Yeah.
1, I can't afford it. 2, I can't leave my job. 3, I can't pay for room and board in Minnesota. Well, and 4, everyone has a horror story about it, and they kick you out. They don't see that you're fit for the program after a while. So that's how they maintain their 99% success rate, because they just kick you out. And I was like,
no, thank you. I don't want to spend $50,000 to sign up for medieval torture. I will pass.
Yeah. So, no, that's okay. So I managed my own feeding tube for about a year and a half.
Oh my
God.
And
I found a doctor 45 minutes away from my house to prescribe the formula, because she would not prescribe the feeding tube itself. So she prescribed the formula, and I was like, okay, that's fine. And I would ask my primary care physician, I'm like, well, I need this blood work done every couple of weeks. I need to have this replaced every month or every 3 months, is what it was turning out to be, because she would have to beg the gastroenterology team to exchange the feeding tube because they did not want to be held liable for the feeding tube. I have to follow the feeding tube because they did not order the feeding tube. They said that Mayo Clinic had ordered the feeding tube originally. However, they did. They told me I needed one when I was in the hospital.
Yeah.
And now the same hospital was like, we never said that.
Yeah.
We for a year and a half, they couldn't find any documentation on who ordered my feeding tube, who said I needed it, and who originally prescribed it, and for how long. I found it, of course. I just went through my medical record, and it's like, it's right here. This woman here, she still works here. You can talk to her. So it was an experience, and my primary care physician, bless her heart, she was not messing with me at first. She was like, Carl, you just need to like calm down. Like, it took probably a solid year of her seeing me deteriorate, because on the feeding tube, I lost an additional 40 pounds. So I was down 100 pounds from when all of this first started. And she's like, okay, there's some stuff going on. Then they find a mass next to my heart. My liver's enlarged. And they're like, well, what's going on here? We don't know what it is, but something is happening. And so I'm having all these scans, and I'm still following my own feeding tube. And my doctors again on our hands and knees, like asking gastroenterology. And gastroenterology finally agrees, but after the first 2, they're like, no, we're not doing this anymore. And they typically put this in under anesthesia, so you're like knocked out. And the only people who were willing to place the feeding tube was fluoroscopy or interventional radiology. And so they just give you a couple of numbing drops in your nose, and they just like shove it down there while you're under an X-ray machine. And every time I showed up to have my feeding tube replaced, they had the towels ready to put over my eyes because I would be crying. because the feeling of the feeding tube passing through my stomach was like a sharp stabbing pain. And the radiologist said he had never seen anything like that before in his life. He was like, that hurts? And he repeated it, like, yes. He's like, I literally just like lightly tapped the inside of your stomach with the flexible plastic. It's really soft and squishy, tube. And he's like, you're something's wrong with your nerves. I'm like, that's what they say.
Yeah.
And yeah, so for a whole year I was having my feeding tube replaced that way. And I finally said enough is enough. And I told my primary care doctor, I was like, get me to palliative care. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I was like, I don't want, like, this is too much. And she had finally found someone to follow my feeding tube by this point. I think me asking for palliative care was like, she was like, okay, let me work harder. And no one within a 200-mile radius would follow my feeding tube. And I live in Iowa. So the only person who agreed was a man in Chicago at Northwestern. He saved my life. He's this amazing, magical man. On the first appointment, I knew he was the right doctor for me because he said, I'm going to be honest, I didn't read your medical record before I met with you because I didn't want to read everyone's preconceived notions about what you were experiencing.
Whoa.
So I want to hear it from you.
Yeah.
What's going on and what do you want to accomplish? And I was like, what? Again, he's been my doctor ever since, so about a year and a half now he's been my doctor. But yeah, so just to have this sustaining my life has been, it was a whole process. Not to mention the other stuff, but this was the main issue for a long time, just finding someone to follow it without being afraid of what would happen if something went wrong, if they were to blame for it. What? No.
I mean, that should have been a one-day part of your journey. Like those years that you kept yourself alive, this person who didn't go to medical school, having to figure out how to get yourself nutrition because no one else would. That's one of the most inhumane things I've ever heard on this podcast. I'm like stunned. That should have been one day, one phone call. And it was like, you shouldn't have had to go through that at all. But the fact that you did is like astonishingly impressive. First of all, the fact that you're alive is impressive. Like you kept yourself alive. I'm so relieved you finally found this doctor, but like this shouldn't be. None of this should have happened. This is ridiculous. I don't know how you integrate the anger from that and keep moving.
Oh, I had reported the whole care team at my original hospital to something called the Office of the Patient Experience. And this is where it gets kind of not so great.
This is where it gets not so great. Oh my God. I don't even want to know. I do want to know.
It's slightly worse, but so my primary care physician, remember how I said she like finally started taking me seriously, but I tried to get another primary care physician. I had went to the Office of Patient Experience. I'm like, this is what's happening. I am disgruntled. I'm disappointed. I have worked in hospitals for the last like 5 or 6 years. Like my family has nurses. Like I know how patient care goes, and this is not acceptable. And basically it had gotten to the point where I had complained so much. I was like, I think these people in these departments need to tell me exactly why they will not take me on as a patient. I would like to know why, and I need it in writing, and I need for it to be in my medical record. And
yeah, well said.
The Office of the Patient Experience said, okay, we'll talk to the head of these departments and we'll see what we can do. The head of the gastroenterology department looked through my medical record and my charts and everything. And he was like, well, there's nothing that we can do to help her anyway.
What?
I was like, what? So, of course, before you have this place, they have to do like an endoscope and they have to look in your stomach and run all these tests to make sure that nothing else is wrong in your body. Like gallbladder issues come into play, like pancreatitis comes into play. So they have to check for all those things. So gastroenterology had already checked for all those things and none of those things came back positive. But it was to the point where they were going to surgically remove my gallbladder without a positive like test. I was like, what? No, you can't just like take my gallbladder. Like, what? The thought of never ever being able to enjoy French fries again just like broke my heart. I was like, no, please don't do that to me. So I was like, okay, cool. Thank you, head of the gastroenterology department, for deciding that. There was nothing you could do to help me. And then they talked to the head of internal medicine. The head of the internal medicine department said, you are not allowed to see another primary care physician.
Why?
I was like, what? And they said, because your case is too complex for other physicians to handle. So if you try to make an appointment with another physician, it will be automatically canceled. I was like, well, what if my doctor's out? What if my provider's out? You're going to have to wait until she comes back. So what? And they said, well, if she's not in, I will see you. And at this point, I'm like, no, I don't want you to see me because you just said that my case was so difficult. 1 week later, this woman turned around and said, you just need to remove your feeding tube and we'll hospitalize you and see what happens because there's nothing wrong with you. And I was, but you said my case was too complex. I couldn't see another provider, but now I'll take out the feeding tube, put me in the hospital and see what happens. Like, what are you talking about? And then the Office of the Patient Experience, I reached out to them again and said, hey, I don't think this is fair because the head of internal medicine wrote this entire report on my medical record and with so many incorrect things, just like wrong things. Mayo Clinic placed my feeding tube originally and prescribed it. I had all these people following me. I was lying about my health. I was malingering with my feeding tube, and malingering means to withhold something in order to gain something. So they're like, you're starving yourself for attention, all of these things. And the Office of Patient Experience said, you're no longer allowed to complain about your care here. And if you do complain about it again, it will be ignored.
Wow.
And I was like, so I have
just, like,
a degree.
trapped. Like nothing you do is working. And it's nothing's your fault. Like, this is so upsetting.
By this time, I graduated. I've entered a cognitive behavioral therapy outpatient program at the hospital that I work at, and it was like an hour, like a week, and we did this homework and stuff. And once I was done, she's like, you don't need this. Like, you don't need this. There's like, you don't need this. I have a therapist. I have a psychiatrist. They were trying to tell me I had an eating disorder. Or psychiatrists were like, no, you don't have an eating disorder. You don't have anxiety. Like, you don't, like, what are they trying to say? And my doctors were just like ignoring that. I'm like, okay. It like broke my heart because I have a degree in philosophy with a concentration in biomedical ethics. And so I'm just like, this isn't sitting right with me.
Yeah.
Like, this is violating so many ethical rules right now. And I can't report it. And here we are today after experiencing that with my primary care doctor in internal medicine, the gastroenterologist from Mayo Clinic. He would reach out to me on occasion just to check in with me because he's like, I'm seeing the scans and I'm seeing all this blood work and I'm seeing these results and something is going on. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, this isn't what we thought it was originally. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
He's like, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow you from a distance. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, you might come in back here on occasion, but Mayo Clinic, the gastroenterology department, is a consultative practice, which means you cannot have them as a regular provider. You can they can try to diagnose you, then they send you on the way, and that's it. So he has been working with me behind the scenes to try and figure stuff out for me on his end. And I still don't have like an official diagnosis because another physician said I didn't have gastroparesis. And then another physician said, we don't know what visceral hypersensitivity is. So I can't get disability or anything like that because I don't have like a diagnosis or anything. And it's just very like challenging navigating the health system and like everything and how that works. But eventually people started saying, okay, we have to try and figure this out. I reached out to my gastroenterologist at Northwestern, my gastroenterologist at Mayo Clinic, and I said I need to see more people. They said, okay. My gastroenterologist at Northwestern knows a gastroenterologist at Cleveland Clinic. They did their residency together, so I went to see them. My Mayo Clinic gastroenterologist knows someone who works at the University of Pittsburgh, so I went to see them. I went to UCLA. I went to Houston Methodist in Texas. I went to Rush University in Chicago. I went to University of Chicago. I've been to so many places and everyone's just like, I don't know. And so I have an appointment with a geneticist and I'm like, this is it. Like, they're going to figure this out. And my geneticist is like, okay, I'm going to send you to a metabolic geneticist because something is wrong with your metabolism. You're losing weight. All these calories are going in. My calorie consumption daily was around 4,000 calories and I was at 117 pounds. And they're like I'm eating as much as like a linebacker. And I'm like,
wow.
And she was like, okay. So I see the metabolic geneticist and she's like, you have something that we commonly see in pediatric patients. So you need to see a pediatric doctor. I think if you see a pediatric endocrinologist, they'll be able to help you out because your blood sugar issues, we see this in children all the time. All the time. For metabolism issues, we see this in children all the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, cool. The department refuses to see me, of course, because I'm an adult. I'm like, okay, what do I do next? My geneticist is like, okay, we ran all these tests, but you're borderline for all of these. And then the other ones are of unknown clinical significance. So we don't know what that means. I'm like, okay. And so about 8 to 9 months later, I go back to palliative care and I'm like, hey, I think I'm ready. And he's like, are you sure? I'm like, yep. I fill all the paperwork. And he makes an appointment for me and my parents to come back so that he can explain everything to my parents. And my parents are like, no, she's too young. Like, she can't do this. Like, I'm just like, well, every day I'm in like excruciating pain. I'm weak. I have no energy. I can't go to the bathroom. Like, luckily I have a job, but my job is becoming less and less understanding of medical issues because I've worked there for 4 years now. And at this point, they're like, girl, like, are you going to heal or not? Like, what's happening? I've exhausted all my FMLA. I was out of the office the last 6 months for 480 hours because I was in the hospital or going to doctor appointments. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And they decided to let me see a couple more physicians. So, okay, well, we'll let you see a couple more physicians. Of course, they don't know. And so I send a message to the physicians who are rocking with me. So my primary care provider who finally got on board, the Mayo Clinic doctor and the Northwestern doctor, and my geneticist, because she was like, she's still on it. She's still trying to figure it out. And I told them, I was like, hey, I will be going into hospice in December. And my Mayo Clinic doctor, he called me immediately. He was like, are you okay? Do we need to admit you to like a mental crisis unit or something? I was like, no, like, I'm fine. I was like, I'm fine. Like, my psychiatrist knows, my therapist knows, everyone knows. And he's like, I don't know, like, we need to figure something out. Like, no, let's keep trying. Like, I was like, the only way, like, I will not go on hospice is if someone can come up with an actual plan to figure this out or to mitigate some of the symptoms. And my geneticist reaches out to me and she says, I know a guy in a research study who does research on difficult diagnosed cases and rare diseases. I was like, okay. She's like, you have an appointment with him next week. I was like, okay. It is the Undiagnosed Disease Network rare disease thing, that giant program that has all those patients. And they had told me that program did not exist at the hospital that I was going to. I thought it was revamped a few months prior. And the person who's in charge of that is my geneticist's husband. So she threatened him, apparently. He was like, she said I was going to have to sleep on the couch if I didn't take you on as a patient. I was like, oh, okay. Great, good for me. Sorry that you had to go through that. I'm on that program, and they did all the sequencing, and they came back and they said, we have never seen genetic abnormalities grouped like this ever before.
Whoa.
And I was like, oh, okay. Like, so we don't know what to do about it because we've never seen this group of mutations before. Like, we've never seen this. Like, okay, so what do we do next? We're like, well, we wait until someone comes in with similar stuff and see if they get diagnosed and see if it helps you. Like, okay. And within the last year, 3 more people presenting the same exact symptoms as me
Whoa.
have come forward and have joined the study. I don't know their ages, their genders, anything like that, or if they have been diagnosed yet. But I was like, that's interesting. Then I also connected with 3 other people who have similar symptoms as me, presented at around the same time. We're all in the same age group, and we're all from the Midwest. I was like, that's also very interesting. And one of the people grew up 5 minutes from my mom's house. And I was like, that's very interesting. Like, what's going on here? But still, they don't have a diagnosis. I don't have a diagnosis. Yeah. So I guess that's my story now.
Wow.
I'm just
oh my God.
It kind of took long.
Well, now I'm speechless. Okay, so
it goes around. There's so many like little tangents and different things.
And then it ends with, there's someone else with this too who grew up 5 minutes from my mom's house. So like, what? So maybe there's something environmental? I mean, but it seems like it's genetic, but we don't know how or why. I mean, wow. But at least you have like hard evidence, you know, you have something on paper saying like there is something going on here. Has that changed the tenor of your relationship with your doctors? You're shaking your head no. Oh my God.
No. My liver has increased in size by like 5%, 5 to 10% every year since this all started. They're like, well, sometimes that just happens.
What?
Okay. Before this all started, my blood sugar would respond to an emergency glucose shot. So something called glucagon, which isn't sugar specifically, but it convinces your body to do a process that changes different energy sources into sugar instead. Where if my blood sugar was 55, it would shoot up to 280. Now if my blood sugar is 55, it shoots up to 80. It doesn't work anymore. And they're like, well, the mass next to your heart is like fine now. It hasn't grown in size. And I'm like, okay, cool. But like, what is it? They're like, we don't know. We can't biopsy it because if we try to biopsy it, there's a high risk we'll puncture your lung. So they did a biopsy of an adjacent one that looked absolutely normal, like a lymph node that was close to it. and they had to do something called a bronchoscopy. They put you to sleep for that, of course, and they stick a tube and they like go into your lung to try and like, or around your lung to try and get like a little needle sample of the lymph node. However, fun fact, for some reason, I just happen to be tolerant to opioids and I don't take them. So they tried to give me fentanyl. They usually just give you a little fentanyl and you go sleep and all these things. They gave me 5 separate doses of fentanyl and it did absolutely nothing.
Whoa.
And I was just fully awake and still talking. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to have to do this and you're going to have to be awake, but you shouldn't really feel much. And I'm like,
Meh.
what? Because they tried all these pain medications for the pain that I experienced. So morphine doesn't work, tramadol, Toradol, Benadryl, ketamine they've done. I've had the numbing injections. Nothing works for the pain. And they're like, that means it's in your head. Okay, then give me something for my head to make it stop. So I've been on like maybe 10 or 12 different types of antidepressants, and none of them work, of course. So I'm just like, okay, well, I don't know what you guys want from me, so I just take things as they come, and I see my psychiatrist, and he prescribes me medication to try something new, and then he gets sad because he's like, I know this is probably not going to help, and I'm so sorry. Like, yeah, now. So I just am trying to stay a little positive all the time. I do have my like down.
Yeah, of course you do.
Girl vibes. But yeah, so I just try to like take it one day at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of anyone your age talk about entering hospice care and palliative care. I mean, palliative care, this is like a end of life, we're stopping treatment and just trying to make you comfortable. So when you're looking at that option, are you thinking like, we're taking the feeding tube out, I'm going to die, and I'm just going to try to be comfortable. I can't fight this fight anymore. And like, that's where you were at.
That is where I was at. And up until this year, like I was ready. I had a horrible experience in the hospital at Northwestern. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it at Northwestern. And I needed a feeding tube exchange because my feeding tube was kinked. So in my intestine, it was just like folded in half, and nothing can get through. And so my blood sugar started dropping like, very rapidly. And I was rushed. My stepdad rushed me to the hospital, and he's like, "So we are getting there." And he's like, "Her blood sugar is low." And they're like, "Yeah, sure, okay." And they do an X-ray. They find out my feeding tube is kinked. I'm like, "Yes, I know. I know that it is." There's when you try to flush through it, air just comes back out through the syringe and shoots it out. So that's how I know. I was like, okay. And they're like, well, we're going to try to unclog it. And I was like, it's not clogged. They're like, okay, fine. And I was like, please do an X-ray. Please just do an X-ray. They're like, okay. Of course, it's folded right in half. They're like, sad with the clog zapper is what they call it. And so they're like, well, put a new one in tomorrow. We should have them all good. I was in the hospital for 7 days because they said they could not find this feeding tube because they need a specific one that is very long because it goes into my intestine. And I need a specific thickness because my formula is so viscous and thick because it has so many calories in it. And I was like, hey, so I know what it's called. I know the company that makes it. And I actually know where you can get it from.
Yeah.
They have it at the other hospital that's 25 minutes away from here. That is your sister location. And they said they can send it to you. I called them. They're like, no, we don't do that.
What?
I was like, okay. And so I have this feeding tube and they're like, we're going to try to unkink it. I'm like, okay. So like pulling it in and out. And it caused so much pain that I accepted the morphine just so I could sleep at night. I was like, okay, as long as it'll put me to sleep. And the nurses were just so like upset with my care team. They're like, you need to report these people because you already told them that you can get this and you don't need to be here for this long. This is a 1 hour procedure in and out. Like, they're like, okay, we'll change it. I'm like, okay. And they're like, but we'll use what we have. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Can I see it to make sure it's the right size and everything? They're like, okay, yeah. They show it to me. I'm like, okay, yes. They show me two options. I'm like, this option is preferable because this is closer to this one. They're like, okay. They have me sign the paperwork. They put me under. I wake up, same feeding tube. They're like, we couldn't do it.
Why?
And I was like, why not? They're like, actually, that tube wasn't flexible enough. So, yeah, so we're just gonna have to wait for another tube. You should have, if you wanted this specific tube, you should have brought it with you. It's like, do I let my company or a physician? Like, how I can't just have this. I can't just like say, hey, let me just bring feeding tubes with me every time my blood sugar drops and I have to go to the hospital. So I call my gastroenterologist at the sister hospital, which is where I would usually go, but it's an hour away from where I was. And I was like, hey, because of traffic, because it's downtown Chicago. And so this one is like 15 minutes up the street. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. It's like, call them. They're like, yeah, your gastroenterologist is on vacation. And I was like, great. Love that for me. And so the gastroenterologist I have at the hospital I'm staying is horrible. And I'm like, hey, when I was in the hospital, my partner was on speakerphone and I was talking to him and she's like, hey, can I talk to him? I'm like, sure, yeah. And so my phone was on the side table. She pushes the side table all the way across the room, comes back and starts talking to me. And I was like, no, you didn't that's insane. Like, you don't want anyone to hear what you're about to say to me. She calls me selfish. She says I'm just attention seeking. She says that there's really nothing wrong with me, that I should have gone to the other hospital if I wanted better care, and that there's nothing that she can do. And at this point, I'm refusing care. And that's what she's going to write. And I was like, well, if you're going to write that, please just say that the feeding tube that you have is not the model that I need for my machine, my feeding pump, my formula. So, and I would not be able to get any of the supplies here just randomly. And so, like, it doesn't work that way. And then on the 6th day, she says, hey, so I was wrong. So we actually do have that feeding tube in stock and we're going to replace it tomorrow. I'm like, oh, how I told you that you do carry this feeding tube. And that, after I got out of the hospital from that, is when I sent you that email, the very first email I sent you about Amy's episode.
Oh, really? Wow. Wow. Where do you find the strength to keep fighting? Because you're fighting the most unfair battle imaginable. You're fighting for your life and nobody is listening to you. Everyone is blaming you. And you're facing just brick wall after brick wall after brick wall in a way that, I mean, I can, I felt like I faced a lot of brick walls, but like listening to your story, I'm just like, man, it gets worse, like this is atrocious. Like, this is inhumane. This is cruel. This is wrong. And you face it over and over and over, and you don't have a choice. The only choice is to keep fighting. And I mean, you almost made a different choice to go into palliative care because the fight is so unfair and the cards are so stacked against you. And I have no idea why the universe is stacking things against you this way. Like, this is that a question you've asked yourself, like?
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. I went to my therapist and I was like, look, I think in a past life, maybe I was like a serial killer or something. And I am being like punished because I did something horrible. Like, and she's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I don't understand. Like, I was in the middle, I was studying for my MCAT. I was working a great job. I was volunteering. Like I lived my whole best life. Even when I couldn't eat solid foods anymore, I was like pushing more weight at the gym. Like I was like, okay, like if I can't eat, like at least I can still have smoothies. Like it's not that bad. Yeah. So my stepdad, I'm gonna preface this by saying he is a small, angry Iranian man. So he doesn't really show emotions very much. But he was at my bedside when I was in the hospital waiting for a new feeding tube. And he cried and he said, please do not go on hospice. Because when I was there, they called the hospice people and got the consultation. They signed off on the hospice order and they called the hospice house. And there was one 15 minutes from my mom's house, 5 minutes from the hospital. I was like, okay. And my stepdad was like, please, like, no, just a little longer. I'm like, okay, fine. I told my family that basically once my feeding tube is no longer functional, like once it no longer does what it needs to do, which technically is not doing what it needs to do right now, but when it like ceases to like work at all, because from having a feeding tube for so long, this is a temporary tube usually. Some people have them for a long time, but usually just 7 weeks is the max. I've had mine for years. And so my nasal septum is a little destroyed a little bit. And if I have this in for a lot longer, my septum and my nose is just going to collapse. And so I need to have a different tube, like the one that goes directly into your stomach or into your intestine. But fun fact, my intestines don't work. So they're like, it's not going to change anything. It'll just be in a different location. And we don't want to do that to her. So now I'm just waiting for this fancy schmancy scan that Mayo Clinic has. They're the only people that have it within like 150 miles of me. And it's going to see if there's something wrong with my liver or pancreas to figure out why all of these GI things are happening. The main thing that keeps me going is hoping that they will figure this out and that someone who is going through something very similar will finally have the answers that they need.
Yeah.
That's all I want. And I also really, really, really want to be a physician in underserved areas so that people can actually develop a trust of their healthcare system again and physicians so that they don't have to go through the same things that I went through. Because I wanted to be a doctor since I was like 4 years old. I've seen my doctor's signature with crayon. But I just want to help people. I just want to make sure that this never, ever happens to anyone ever again, and that whatever they can find out actually helps someone. After talking to my palliative care doctor about my hospice decision, I called the hospice people back and I said, hey, I'm in a research study for undiagnosed diseases. Would I be able to remain in the research study if I go on hospice? And they said no. And I was like, oh. I was like, even if it's not a treatment study, they said, like, it's still a research study. I'm like, okay. Well, I really want them to be able to figure this out for someone. So after I already made a decision not to go after my stepdad. He's like all emotional. So I'm like, okay, he's never emotional. Like, I'll do it. I won't do it. And then that was like, okay, like someone needs to figure this out. And I am still actively researching. I don't want people to think that they have to continue to fight for things if they feel like they have fought enough, because that's their own personal decision. And I feel like I have fought enough technically right now, but every day and in my job alone, there are people that go years and years and years without diagnoses. the physician that I had not too long ago in the hospital setting, she said it took her 7 years to be diagnosed with her autoimmune disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a physician herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
So
I was 38 when I got diagnosed, and I'd been having issues since second grade.
yeah. Yeah, so you know. So you
I know.
how it is.
I know. Yeah, I know. I've been accused of making it up over and over and over. I gave up on going to doctors, and then I just got desperate, and I tried again, and I went to the UW, University of Washington Medical Center, and it still took years, but we got there, and I can't believe it. I can't believe that I got there, but I did get there.
I told my mom about you, and she's like, have you been tested for this? I'm like, yes, I have been.
Well, my testing for MCAS was negative, and that's part of the problem. Yeah, I just feel these feelings that are so intense. I see elements of what I've lived through and what you've lived through, but yours, I mean, is so extreme. Like the nature of the treatment you've gotten is despicable and beyond upsetting. And I want to do something, and I don't know what to do, And I mean, that must be the feeling you've been living with for years. Like, I want to do something, and I don't know what to do because no one is helping me. Well, for our listeners, I mean, how do you feel about, like, if people have ideas, sending them to me and I'll send them along to you?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's fine. I forgot what her name was, but she's a baker. I bake.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's another hobby of mine. And I can't taste anything. And people are shocked at how delicious everything is because I can't taste anything. And so I just bake and bake and bake. For Christmas last year, I made like over 400 cookies and 6 different kinds. And I was like, oh my God, they're so good. So when I heard her story, I was like, I wonder if she has like gastroparesis or if she has some type of dysmotility disorder or superior mesenteric artery syndrome. Like,
yeah, I've covered that one as well. Yeah. Our youngest guest ever had SMA. Yeah, I mean, there is an answer. There is something wrong. There is an answer, and if you can find that answer, it could help other people. It could be a new disease. It could be something that's not cataloged by medical science. I heard those words about me over and over, and that was wrong. But
yes, my geneticist was like, you probably have some super crazy autoimmune disease. Oh, can I show you something?
Sure.
Okay. So my geneticist is like, there's something wrong with your nerves. We know there's something wrong with your nerves because, well, now I use a cane to walk most of the time because of muscle spasms and cramping and weakness in my legs now. And they're like, that's weird. That's only progressed over the last like 3 months. So they did the needle test, the EMG where they stab you, and I couldn't feel any of the needles or anything.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They're like, oh, your pain tolerance is so high. I was like, well, isn't that a problem? You're like shocking my nerves and like stabbing my nerves and I can't feel it.
Test sucks. If you aren't feeling that, there's something wrong. That was painful. I've done that at least twice.
They put one like right through my chin, like in I was like, I can't feel it. They're like, okay. And so they're doing the test to see like what like hurts and what doesn't hurt. And I had the dysautonomia test, and they're like, you don't sweat. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, small fiber neuropathy. Small fiber neuropathy.
Yeah,
that's what I have.
Like, yes. And then they're like, actually, you don't have small fiber. I was like,
well, why did they say that?
They said I didn't have any genetic markers for it.
It's not genetic. It's not genetic. It is not genetic. What are they talking about? It is an acquired disease from nerve damage.
Yeah, but hey, I don't have any genetic abnormalities to indicate that I would. Anyway,
I am diagnosed with that disease, and I do not have genetic markers for it. It's a skin biopsy. What are they talking about?
Oh yeah, I asked for the skin biopsy. They're like, we've never heard of this. I was like, you are a research medical center. Like, you diagnose the rarest of. No. So I go to the University of Iowa.
Okay.
So, and that's just happens to be where I work. It's very, very convenient.
Yeah. I mean, normally my advice to people is go to your local research hospital, and you're doing that, and it sounds like they don't know what they're talking about.
So it's been interesting. But one thing my geneticist said, she's like, okay, let's look at how your nerves function and everything like that, and look at your muscles and everything. And so they're doing the whole like scrapey side of the leg thing and stabbing, and it's like tickling me. I'm like, oh. And they're like, what's wrong? What? This is supposed to hurt. I'm like, oh no, it tickles. And they're like, stick out your tongue. I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna stick out my tongue.
Oh, wow. Yeah, your
It goes
tongue
to that side.
goes to the side.
And they're like, we've never seen this before. And so, of course, my doctor brings in their medical student. They're like, you'll never see this ever again. Look at this.
Ugh.
And they're like, okay, well, there's a defect in one of your cranial nerves, which could be from these different kinds of diseases that are autoimmune or genetically acquired. Like these diseases fit this picture with all of your symptoms. I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, actually, so one of the hallmarks of all of these diseases is a facial deformity. And like, you don't have a facial deformity, so the likelihood that you have these different diseases are very low, but we're still going to test you for them.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. Everything came back unknown clinical significance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is there a treatment for those diseases? Can we try the treatment? Because that's for me with MCAS, like we just tried the treatment and that worked.
So because the treatment for these diseases includes like some type of immune therapy, so like like methotrexate type of like chemotherapy situation that would decrease immunity to things. Because most of them are autoimmune, so that we have to like turn off your immune system for a second. Basically, you have to decrease that, calm it down, because obviously it's overactive. We can't even bring this to insurance or anyone to say, hey, let's give her this immune therapy while we have no proof of these diseases.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's understandable. Like I understand.
But still, maybe worth a shot. I mean, there's got to be a doctor out there who's willing to try.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Hopefully someone is out there.
Yeah, I mean,
I've done so much like research on different people. I'm like, hey, can you help me? And they're like, no. Hey, can you help me? Like, no. I'm like, hey.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wondering, you asked about MCAS and small fiber neuropathy, like absolutely sounds like a potential, but that can be caused by so many things, including, we believe, MCAS, which I keep saying we believe. That's what I believe is happening in my body, is like I have MCAS which caused small fiber neuropathy. But there is not like hard clinical proof. This is just like the story that we've pieced together and based off of my insane recovery from being on MCAS medication. Yeah, I mean, Dr. Lawrence Afrin is like the big dog in MCAS. I have his book right here. Like if you want to find out about MCAS, he's the number one guy to talk to. And like, he's worth reaching out to at the very least to say, hey, can I get a consultation? I have zero idea if what you're going through could be MCAS related at all. No idea. I just know that MCAS, can present in so many different ways. So why not look into it? I mean, I want to take you with me to the University of Washington and like sit in appointments with you, and be like,
so tempted to go. I heard you talk about it. I'm like, this is where I need to go.
Come stay at my house and go to the University of Washington. I'm not even kidding. Like, if I can help at all, I'm in for sure. Like, unquestionably, like I feel like a very intense, deep need to know, and which I'm sure you do as well. But I mean, let's talk more after we're done recording. This is just not okay. Like you deserve it. You are a human being who is sick, who has been mistreated, and you deserve to know why. And then once you know why, spend the rest of your life making sure no one else has to go through this.
Oh, yeah. I'm writing books, papers, teaching classes. Like,
Heck yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah. And we need that. We need you to do that because, you know, the other people going through this, like, it's awful. It is awful. You are the reason that I started this podcast. Like, people going through what you're going through are the reason I started this podcast, because we shouldn't go through this alone. And we are all being treated this way, and it's not okay. And we need to support each other because no one else is there for us. And it's not okay. Your story is really, really stunning and shocking. And I am so honored that, like, you found this podcast. And if this has been helpful to you in your journey in any way, that makes all of it, like, so worth it to me. And I mean, that's a really amazing feeling for me to be like, if what you're going through is just like absolute insanity that is beyond anything that anyone should have to live through. And if what we've created here is helpful in that, that's incredible. You know, that I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that you reached out. I'm so grateful to have you on this show and to share your story. Like, what a powerful story. One of the most stunning stories we've ever covered. Like, I'm just sitting here like with my jaw on the floor the whole time. I'm a little bit, it may not seem that way. I am a little bit speechless. I don't even know what to say, you know, but besides the fact that, like, we need to stay in touch. We need to get you answers. How can I help? What can I do? If anyone is listening that has thoughts, email me, majorpainpodcast@gmail.com. And whatever it is, you know, we'll pass it along to Alia, because, like, you know, we'll take anything, right?
Oh my goodness. My mom she called a Brazilian witch doctor, and I was throwing water to the east every morning. And
Yeah.
my mom tried to do an exorcism on me during a seizure. And I went to a holistic doctor in Louisiana. Oh, deep in Louisiana. It was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
But now that clinic is in my family, apparently. So now my family, like, owns that clinic. I was like, what? Since when are we those people? But anyway, so
Yeah.
I've done a lot of, I'll try anything, honestly. So.
Yeah. But and I've been there too. Like, I was seeing this naturopath who was doing muscle testing where he was like holding things on crystals behind my head and pushing my arm to see if I was stronger or weaker. And I was like, this is the only thing that's going to work, you know, like, and no, it didn't work. It did not work. It didn't work. Medicine. I needed medicine, you know, but I was desperate. And when medicine isn't even willing to engage with you to even try, of course you're going to go see a witch doctor. Like, what? That's the best option you got.
Yeah. Like, they're going to spit rim in my face, and they're going to draw a salt circle around me, and they're going to heal me. Like, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It didn't happen, but yeah. Like,
this is the miracle that we'll be telling the next generation about. But, you know, we tell ourselves these stories because we need hope. And it's so hard to come by when you can't find help. It does sound like you have some good people on your team. This guy, and this one doctor in particular, sounds like he's really got your back. And then this other guy at the Mayo Clinic who is like trying to follow your care. So
amazing.
The tide is going to turn, you know. I'm just manifesting this right now, that you've suffered so much that people will start to listen to you. You know, that took me like a decade of doctors not listening to me to really get them to listen. And a lot of it was like learning how to speak their language. Which is awful that we even have to do that. But
I wear my work badge to all of my appointments.
Smart.
They're like, okay. They're like, what kind of research do you do? Oh my gosh. Like, yeah. And so they tell me the full story. They use all of the words. I'm like, okay. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you're obviously a very intelligent person. And
I try to be.
Yeah, I mean, the treatment that you've gotten is completely unwarranted. And I really, really, I want to believe that you're at the point where, you know, with these doctors in your corner, at least the treatment can get better, and we can hope to try to find something and try different things. And, you know, the tests can only tell you so much. And it's what your body responds to that I think matters the most. You know, if I only went by the tests, I would still be remarkably sick. So, you know, it was trying the medication that made the difference for me. And let's try everything. Like, why not? Why, you know, for me, like with MCAS, cromolyn sodium is the main medication. And it's like, if you don't have MCAS, it's like harmless. And if you do have MCAS, it stabilizes your mast cells. And it's like a literal magic potion that made my body work. You know, it's like the actual fantasy dream, you know? And I'm living that now because I got lucky because doctors were willing to take me seriously. And you know, before that happens, it feels impossible. And then once that happens, it happens. And then it continues to be real. And then it's like, wow, now I have this new reality to adjust to in which my wildest dream has come true. And I'm years into that now. It's been like two something years since getting my mobility back and feeling good back. I had a flare up yesterday, you know. I still have bad days. Like I went to see a circus performance for my wife's like we have this like extended family and their kid is you know, what's the word? He's a burgeoning magician. And he was in this like sort of circus camp, and the performance was in a moldy building, and I got really sick, you know, and I've been doing really great recently. It's just one exposure to mold and like, boom, I'm out. And the whole rest of the day I was really, really sick. And that was yesterday. So, I mean, I still live with this thing and it's still a part of me and it always will be, but it's now like a known factor and I can, you know, mitigate it with medication and like that. You know, that's what you deserve. Like, that's what you deserve. And
oh yeah. I told my doctors, like, I don't even care right now. I don't care about a cure. I don't care about specifically like analyzing as like mitigate symptoms, figure out the gist of what this is so I can live my life, basically. It's like, that's all I want. Like, I want to be able to like walk 100 feet without like, or without using a cane or without toppling over randomly or like losing my balance. Like, I just want to like, or eat something, maybe.
Is that so much to ask? I'd like to eat a thing.
Something, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, we have to stay in touch. I am desperate for us to have a follow-up episode where we tell everyone what is going on, where we have an answer. Like, let's do that. Let's manifest that. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. I have to ask you my favorite last question. Like, you've been through hell. Like, you have been through hell and you're still here. And I can't even imagine, you know, I always like to ask, if you could go back in time and talk to yourself like the day before this started, what would you say? And I don't even know in your case. I mean, wow, like you've been through so much. I don't even know if that's the right question to ask you, but I'm going to ask you anyway. If you could go back in time, we're going to hop in the time machine and you get to meet you the day before that seizure.
Yeah,
is that a song?
You have a song.
Oh, I have a song.
Yes. Sorry, I listened to your music.
Oh my God, you do? That's awesome.
I listened to your music. It's on my driving playlist. There's something about a time. I don't remember the lyrics.
The Time Machine song. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. It's so catchy. That
song is the theme song for Major Pain. I just pulled the lyrics out, and that's the music that we use for Major Pain. Thank you for listening to my sci-fi synth pop music. It's my favorite thing that I've made besides this podcast. Yes. Okay. We're hopping in a time machine. We're going back in time. You get to meet you the day before this starts. What's the message that you want to share with yourself? If there's anything that you could share to help yourself on this journey.
Two things. One, believe yourself. Because I was doubting myself. I was like, do I have an eating disorder? Is something wrong with me? Am I really stressed out? Is that what's going on? I was like, okay, there's nothing I can do about this, and that's it. And it's like, no. So don't do that. Like, believe yourself. And two, do not shut yourself out. Do not isolate yourself from everyone because you think that your illness is a burden to
Mm.
everyone around you. That is something I'm still learning to not do. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I get a little hermit-y and
Mm.
drop off the mat, radio silence, maybe for months at a time. And people are like, she okay?
Yeah. Oh my
I'm
God.
getting better at that. Yeah.
I relate to that so much too. Both of those messages are so important and powerful. Yeah. Believe yourself. Don't shut yourself out. You have community. You have people that love you. You've talked about your mom, your stepdad, your partner, these people that have your back. And
Mm-hmm.
you are not the burden. Your illness that your doctors
Yeah.
are not helping you with. Your
Oh my
doctors
God,
are the
yes.
burden, you know? Your doctors are the burden. Your illness is something that is happening to you that you did not choose, that is not under your control, and your doctors being unwilling to help is the burden. That's the burden on you and your family, and that's not okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Besides all the medical bills.
Yeah.
Like, what's the, oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
I meet my out of pocket maximum within the first 2 months of the year, every year without fail.
Wow.
So, like, but looking at the breakdown of all the, I'm like, no, there's no way that costs that much money.
Wow.
But within 2 weeks, I racked up a $450,000 medical bill. I said, oh, okay. I don't know what they did besides look at me and say, I don't know. So,
Wow. There's a premium on doctors' incompetence these days. Wow. Okay. If anyone wants to connect with you online, where do we go? Do you have social media you want to plug? Any websites or anything else at all that you want to direct people towards?
I have a blog in its
cool.
infancy.
Yeah.
So I have a blog that's on Tumblr, but it's also on Blogspot. The name of my blog is Wait Waya. So WAITWIAH dot blogspot.com, which stands for wait, what is actually happening. So I have a few posts on there. My most popular one is I think I need a sugar daddy. It did very well. People like that one. But my latest blog post is why didn't anyone tell me how much smelling salts burn? So it's an interesting post about going through a pain flare and blacking out and having them have to use smelling salts to get me out of the pain flare.
Wow.
But yeah, it's interesting.
Wow.
They always end on a positive note. I try not to be too pessimistic in there because I want to give people hope. I want people to, look to it to say, okay, like she's been through all of these things. Like she was in a dark room for 6.5 hours, going in and out of consciousness from a pain flare while they just said, okay, maybe she's having a seizure. And she's here today. So,
Yeah.
like, hey, I
Yeah.
just want people to be able to write their own story or narrative from this to find some hope to get through what they're going through and to know they're not alone.
Yeah. I mean, coming from you, that's just so amazing. And, for those watching the video version, you have these like cool, stylish pink glasses and, fancy pink tape to hold your feeding tube in place. And you just exude lightness and positivity. And to have that be the case after the story you just told us, like, that's insane. Like, that's amazing. And you're holding on to a piece of yourself inside of this journey where these doctors are trying to rip it away and like not only rip it away, but like throw it on the ground and stomp on it, and it's not you, it's them. Like they are the problem. You are doing everything right. Like you are researching, you're bringing solutions to your doctors. Their unwillingness to listen to you and to just order the freaking tube, their unwillingness to do that is not on you. That's on them. And, you know, that's not okay. But something positive is going to come from this. You know, something is going to come from this. And if I can do anything to help speed that along, I will do it. You know, I don't know what it is, but I'm just so grateful to you to come on the show today. What an incredible episode. Alia, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I'm just really blown away.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Major Pain. I'm Jesse Mercury, the creator of this podcast, with support from Trisha Schmidt and Casey McKenzie. Artwork by Egg Salad Salad. Our theme music is the song Time Machine from my synthpop album Sci-Fi, now streaming everywhere. Join our community on social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, all at Major Pain Podcast. If you have questions or comments you'd like to share with myself, our guests, or our listeners, send an email to majorpainpodcast@gmail.com. You can also head to our website to learn more about this show, support its creation, or leave a comment on any episode at majorpainpodcast.com.